protect our queens.
This is what makes women's basketball so fire.
I mean, I just love playing the game. It's fun.
To see how far the game has grown has been amazing.
They say nobody watching. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people in there, Martin.
Yeah, I think I've always just been able to get downhill.
When recess came, like, I had my sneakers on.
I hit them with a hezzy. After that, they quit.
All right. Let's go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Protect Our Queens podcast presented by Basketball Society. With me, as always, my brother in Christ, my partner in women's basketball crime, Martin Sories. My friend, how are you?
I am good, man. Good morning. Live on another good morning to talk some women's basketball. Gonna go for about 30 minutes here. If you're unfamiliar, then you might as well tap in with us. Subscribe to Basketball Society here on YouTube so you see when we go live. And always good to tap in first thing in the morning, man. Women's basketball is booming. Got a couple big news stories to talk about. I'm excited. So anyone who's watching live, leave some comments, tap in with us. If you're watching on the playback, comment down below on the video. And again, stay locked in with us. Subscribe to Basketball Society. Welcome to the Protect Our Queens podcast. Let's get into it, man. Let's get into it. This is exciting times.
Yeah, exciting times. As Martin mentioned, there are two big news stories that we have to talk about. The first of which being Olivia Miles transferring from Notre Dame to TCU, and the second, of course, being Tania Latson transferring from Florida State to South Carolina. We're going to start with Olivia Miles transferring to TCU, but before we do that, let's toss it back to a clip from last week when Martin and I reacted to Olivia Miles announcing that she was going into the transfer portal. For me, it's not surprising that she chose to not declare for the draft. That's not surprising because I sent you the tweet where she said she was kind of on the fence about whether or not she was going to declare. So her not declaring for the draft isn't the surprising thing about this. What's surprising, as you mentioned, is that in her final year of college eligibility, she's choosing, or at least it seems like she's choosing, to spend that year playing somewhere other than Notre Dame. Ooh. Very surprising indeed. Again, Olivia Miles, guard from Notre Dame, has transferred to TCU. And there are a couple of things I saw on Twitter that kind of piqued my interest, kind of caught me by surprise. Nick Giramonte, I believe is how you say the last name, tweeted out Olivia Miles' play style and Mark Campbell's system. TCU women's basketball is appointment television next season. And Sarah Jane Gamilli said, Mark Campbell is an incredible coach. We saw what he did with Haley Van Lith. I'm happy for Olivia Miles. Clearly, Notre Dame wasn't the place. Continuing on, obviously, Bleacher Report makes the announcement after Olivia went on TNT to talk about why she committed to TCU, which we'll play that clip in just a second. Nikias Duncan said Olivia Miles to TCU was fascinating. And Ray Cartwright said, let me be the very first one to say I think Olivia Miles transferring to TCU is good for the Frogs. Martin, before we get into – go ahead.
But yeah, I'm just saying, you think, of course, it's good. They know what they're doing. Great for them.
Before we get into Olivia's clip from last night on TNT when she talked a little bit about why she decided to commit to TCU, what were some of your initial thoughts, reactions when we heard the news that Olivia Miles was transferring to TCU?
Well, I had it on a good source, and it was leaked. So Olivia went on TNT, and we're going to play the clip to announce it with Candace Parker officially, but she only did that apparently because it was leaked sooner than she wanted. And so it seems like her and her team were trying to have their own kind of formal announcement. But it was like leaked the day before by guy EJ Arrow, I'm blanking on his name a little bit, but he put out something on Twitter a couple days ago. I had a source who gave me some information about Olivia going to TCU in reference to the game that Notre Dame played against TCU in the NCAA tournament. We'll see if any more comes up about that, because I've seen some rumblings out there about possibly having to look into some tampering, because apparently TCU was interested in and possibly pursuing Olivia even before that Sweet 16 game. So we'll see what comes from that. But there were talks already. I had a tip, and I don't know if EJ had the same tip or source. I'm starting to think maybe it was the same source, but it was out there that TCU was probably going to be the destination for Olivia. So I was kind of a little privy to that information already. I think the clip from what Olivia said is what gave me my real reaction. Because I, I I think listening to her is what will really segue into like what my reaction is.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to, and what led you to this decision?
Yeah, Coach Mark Campbell is one of the greatest in the game. He has a very direct plan for me and for our team. I'm in those conversations, so I just need people to trust me on this. He's one of the greatest, and I just want to be a pro without being a pro. Every day on campus, I want to act and be the way a pro would be. So I'm, prepared when I do actually go to the league. So this will be an amazing opportunity for me. I'm so grateful, so excited to have this opportunity, and I thank those who support me through this. I know it's been hard for everyone, but I really do thank my supporters who have, had my back since day one.
So another quick fun tidbit. I had the chance to speak with Olivia a couple days ago by text, and another reason for you guys to stick around and stay tuned in to the Protect Our Queens podcast. We will likely have a conversation here with Olivia Miles on the show sometime here soon. So stay tuned for that. But based on her response, my reaction last week was like one of the most surprising things to me was that she was choosing not to play for Niele Ivy. And her remarks about Mark Campbell, the TCU head coach, kind of let me know more about how to react to this. I think just general initial reaction is that like Olivia is getting a chance to run a program again. And I don't, she's not like a selfish player. She's not a selfish person. She's not the type to want all the attention or all the shine. Olivia is very smart up here. High basketball IQ as well. She definitely has her own philosophy of how the game is played. And she kind of similar to like how James Harden says, like, he's the system. And Olivia would never say it that way, but she is. She's that type of point guard where the way she's playing, the team should kind of be playing around her in that style, in that way. And I think that that style leads to success. It was kind of what she was doing with Notre Dame before Hannah got there. And so I think my reaction now is that I think she has an understanding with Mark Campbell. That tweet that you put up. Let me ask you, Marcus, what do you think that means when someone says Olivia Miles in Mark Campbell's system? What based on what you saw from TCU this year, based on what you know about Olivia, what does that signal to you in terms of that system and Olivia being in it?
I mean, I think when you look at,
there's one big one for me. I'm kind of quizzing you here a little bit, but I do just want your opinion though.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the thing that stuck out most to me about TCU when you looked at the way they played basketball, a lot of it had to do with, it all ran through Haley Van Lith, for the most part. And I mean, you even see people on Twitter talking about how, not necessarily questioning Haley Van Lith or anything like that as far as, a comeback or anything. But I mean, there's a lot of commentary about Haley Van Lith in TCU looked a lot like what she looked like in those, 2 or 3 years at Louisville, as far as like she was in a system that was played through by the lead guard. Down the stretch of the season, as they were kind of getting hotter, getting into the tournament, you saw a lot more of them playing the 2-man game with Haley and Sedona. And so I think when you're talking about the system that Mark Campbell has, Mark Campbell clearly had a year of being able to hone in on running an offense that is led by and facilitated by and run by a capable guard who can pass, who can score, who can drive. And Olivia, better, I would say, at a lot of those things than Haley Van Lith is, right? And so you can only expect that TCU, if this year was any indication, and also knowing what we know about Olivia, you can only expect that offense would look a lot better, look a lot more fluid, and to use one of our favorite words, a lot more dynamic than what it did this past season with Haley, just because Olivia is a much more dynamic basketball player than Haley is. So
yeah. I think the big thing that sticks out to me is ball screen game. If you recall how they were using Haley and what they were doing, and it's what I was so critical of with how LSU was not using Haley as a lead guard and just having her pass and cut through and then she's out of the play. It's like, give her ball screens, let her create, let her look for, hunt for shots. And that's how I think TCU was using her. And I think, and not just to reduce it just to ball screens, but I think part of what Olivia's style is and her system and philosophy that she wants to play is that kind of basketball. Like you said, letting the lead guard dictate and a lot of ball screen action, pushing pace. I think her philosophy of basketball aligns a lot with Mark Campbell. Now, Olivia, unfortunately, her putting so much emphasis on her connection with Mark Campbell and even the way she said it, like she called him one of the greats. And she said, you just have to and I trust Olivia. I told you, Olivia was our first interview on Protect Our Queens on this channel, not on the podcast, but back in 2020 when we started Protect Our Queens here at Basketball Society. Olivia was our first interview. Her basketball IQ is like that. So when she says trust me on this, I trust her because I trust her basketball IQ. Unfortunately, even though she doesn't mean it to be this way, and there are some rumblings out there about how she feels about Niele Ivey, unfortunately, her praise of Mark Campbell becomes somewhat of an indictment on Niele Ivey. And I know she doesn't mean it that way, and she's not going to be that explicit about it. I've had some conversations with people. Someone even commented on the video from our episode last week, challenging Niele's X's and O's. And we had a really good dialogue back and forth in the comments about that, because it's something that hasn't come up a lot, but it is something I have noticed, in that Niele Ivey hasn't shown to be a super high level, creative, outstanding X's and O's coach. We love Niele for who she is. She's a player's coach. She played at Notre Dame. She came up. She was an assistant. So we love Niele and what she's doing and what she's building. I just think that Olivia choosing to play for a different coach in a different philosophy, again, it's not a knock on Niele. I do think this puts a little onus on her to prove something. Like losing an Olivia Miles, unfortunately, does put an onus on you as a coach to then show what you can do. Now she still has Hannah, and let me just say, I am so glad there's no beef. Oh Lord, I'm so grateful that Olivia has cleared the air. There's no beef with Chicago Cheetah. Thank you for thank you. I was getting to that. As someone who knows both of these girls, who has covered them both since high school, prior to high school, my Jersey girls, I love and support both of them. I am just so glad that the air is cleared and there's no tangible beef between Olivia and Hannah. I'm so glad that that's not part of this situation. But I do think that even more points it to how she may have felt about Niele. And even though there's no beef with Hannah, because I said this to you last week, Marcus, I do think there's an element, going back to what I said about her running her own team. I think she kind of, in a way, conceded to, hey, this is Hannah's program now. She was the face from day one. Olivia was on the sidelines for year one of it. And Hannah, she's the face of the program. It's her program. And we saw flashes of them succeeding and excelling together this season. And it was fun and it was exciting and dynamic. While it was great, it was great. But I also talked to you about the fact that essentially, and I know some people disagreed with me in the comments, but I'm telling you this as a fact, Hannah's natural position is point guard. She became more of a scorer later in her high school career because she had to. And then walking in day one to Notre Dame, she had to be a scorer because Olivia Miles was out. She couldn't just be a point guard. She had to score the ball. They had to give her the ball and say, hey, go get shots up, like get yourself acclimated, because there was no Olivia. So then Olivia comes back Hannah's scoring over 20 a game. Yeah, she's the 2 guard, but you're still working with 2 point guards, essentially. Hannah's 5'7", all of 5'7", 5'8". She's not like Sonia Citron is a shooting guard, right? Especially when you talk like next level. Like Hannah is a point guard by trade and by nature and by height. So I think for the next 2 years, Hannah taking over the Notre Dame program even more. Olivia's got one last year left. She wants it to be her best. She wants it to have fun, and she wants to get ready for the pros, of course. I think her choosing a program like TCU that aligns with her basketball philosophy, but also gives her a chance to finally display one more time what a team can look like when she is the engine, when she's the face of the program. And I can understand that decision from her, because going into the pros the following year, she's going to have a chance to show one more time what an Olivia Miles run team can do. And TCU will be that much better for it. I think they will be back in the Sweet 16 at least next year. And an Olivia Miles-led team, you know how I feel about her as a game-changing catalyst of a point guard. That team is going to be humming next year. And to your point, it will probably look even better than what we saw with Haley Van Lith this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last thing I'll say is just going back to what I had said initially as well in that same conversation from the clip that we posted is I think, number one, there's a lot more that matters in life than just money, right? You saw a lot of people making the money argument, right? There are a lot more things about life about money. The point that I was making last week about how maybe Olivia Miles wants to get a little bit better and really show what she can do. Like you had talked about how, there's when you're projected to be the number 2 overall pick, right? There's not so much higher your draft stock can go. Right. And so when you put it in that context, and also when you think about how many other guards are particularly coming out next season, AZ Fudd's coming out next year, Tanaya Latson, assumably is coming out next year. A couple others are coming out next year. Flau'jae Johnson's supposed to be coming out next year. Like the guard, I thought this year's guard class was the deepest in history. Right. Next year's guard class is probably going to be the deepest guard class in history, just with all that talent. And so when you look at it that way, you have to understand as well, right, that yes, money matters, right? But when you're talking about certain players, and a player like Olivia Miles, who, as you mentioned, wasn't really playing the way that she was playing before Hannah got there, that matters. Like, so in the draft stock conversation, are there people who, that know that, Olivia Miles is better than probably how she's looking at Notre Dame? Obviously, they get paid to know these things. Sure. But that doesn't mean that Olivia Miles doesn't want to go out there and have a full season of tape and a full season of film of if you draft me to be your lead guard, this is what it can look like. This is how good our team can be if I'm your lead guard, if we're playing through me. And so I think when you couple that with the idea of, she is smart up here, as you mentioned, both as a basketball player, but also just as a human being. She's intelligent, right? When you couple that also with the fact that there are still going to be teams who are going to probably need a lead guard next year who are already shored up at the post position. You think about the Chicago Sky, for example. You talked a lot about how the Chicago Sky should hope that Olivia Miles is going to fall at number 3 this year. Depending on how the Chicago Sky season go this season, they might still have a crack at Olivia Miles next year. Right? When you think about a team like that who already has their post shored up, who's probably going to do a little bit in the draft this year to maybe get their wings shored up, if they're in a position to draft Olivia Miles, think about what that can look like with a full year, 1 year removed from injury, as I said last week, better, stronger, more dynamic. And now you're giving me a full year to see this is how good we can be if I'm your lead guard. That makes so much more sense than just, oh, well, she'll get more NIL money than the WNBA salary, because newsflash, there's going to be a new CBA next year. Right. So the rookie scale contract that she would be getting this year pales in comparison to the rookie scale contract she's going to be getting next season. So even if you wanted to make the money argument, that even doesn't make sense, because our WNBA salary is going to be higher next year than it would be this year. All in all, I think this is a good move for Olivia Miles. I think it's a good move for TCU. And I agree with you. I think TCU can be right back in the Sweet 16. I don't think this was a flash in the pan, one-hit wonder type of season. I do think that Mark Campbell really, I don't know if he's one of the greatest, but I do think he's that good of a head coach where he can take a little bit of, what he saw and what he learned from working with Haley Van Lith and up it a bit to make it meet the level of dynamic that is Olivia Miles. So to echo the first tweet that we saw, I agree. I think Olivia Miles and TCU will be appointment television next season. I'm very excited to see what that's going to look like. Yeah, and it's going to be just as important and exciting to see who else wants to go there, because I promise you girls want to play with Olivia Miles. Yeah, so I think there was a player from Texas A&M. I'm blanking on her name, but she also committed to TCU as well.
Right.
I think she was a guard. I can't think of her name though.
Aaliyah, wasn't it Aaliyah something or
Talia Parker? Talia
Aaliyah,
Parker from
Aaliyah.
Texas A&M has also committed to TCU. I'm not too familiar with her that much, but from what I've seen on Twitter about her from people who are familiar, they look forward to seeing what she could look like alongside Olivia Miles as well. So that's another key piece that's being brought in to TCU next season.
Yeah, and I know it's reported that Kylie Watson from Notre Dame, she might be transferring to TCU as well. But yeah, that's going to be interesting to see who might want to go there and follow Olivia there. That's big for the TCU program, big for Mark Campbell and Notre Dame. Man, we'll see.
Yep.
We'll see how they can bounce back because this does put some pressure on them.
Absolutely. For all you guys who are tapped in with us right now, we do appreciate it. Please feel free to tap in the comments, join the conversation as we get ready to switch gears now over from Olivia Miles transferring to TCU to Taniyah Latson transferring to South Carolina. I have seen people talk about the prospect of Taniyah Latson, who's in the transfer portal currently coming to South Carolina. There is the Raven Johnson connection. My biggest takeaway from Sunday is this has to change.
I know that would be a big splash that South Carolina could use to go from a Raven Johnson to a Taniyah Latson. That makes you way more of an offensive team. Oh boy. My Lord.
This is proof that there is a God. Because sometimes you're down in the dumps, right? Team gets beat by almost 30 in the national championship game. And then 48 hours later, the leading scorer in the country says, you know what? I want to go there for my last year of college basketball. And we welcome you, Taniyah Latson. And I can't wait to see Taniyah Latson playing in South Carolina. Natalie Esquire tweeted, and this was the night of the national championship game. She said, if you're Taniyah Latson and seeking a national championship before you end your college career, South Carolina has to look very attractive right now. Christian at Christian WNBA says a backcourt in Malaysia Fulwiley, Raven Johnson, Maddie McDaniel, and now Taniyah Latson. Phew. South Carolina is going to be something majestic, has everything you want: speed, shot making, versatility, leadership, true point guard play. Fall can't get here quick enough. Lulu Kesson, actually, this is the tweet that made me really, really happy because I want to talk about this. She said that she talked to Raven Johnson and Malaysia Fulwiley about the idea of Taniyah Latson coming to South Carolina since they all played AAU together. Quote, I would love that. If we have that here, I think that might be another undefeated season, is what Malaysia Fulwiley responded. And then finally, Brandon N said, call this one a mile away. Finally, Dawn Staley gets her blue chip guard in Taniyah Latson that can give you an easy 30 a night, which is the point that you made on the show on Monday. This is a match made in heaven and gives the Gamecocks the offensive firepower they need to get closer to their next title. Martin Stories.
Interesting.
We talked about Taniyah Latson potentially transferring to South Carolina. Now she's in South Carolina. And one thing that you mentioned is the offensive identity. When you think about Taniyah Latson playing in South Carolina, what does that offensive identity look like in your mind?
Honestly, I'm not really sure. I mean, like I said, as I said in the clip, if they were to get Taniyah Latson, that makes them more of an offensive team.
Sure.
But this is still an interesting experiment for Dawn because she's had a talented guard like this before, but they haven't brought in the leading scorer in the country before as a guard. And so I don't know. I mean, we talked a lot last week about, you said that it's not working. You said the Dons need to switch it. It's got to change. It's got to be switched up. I said that as a hypothetical, if they were to get someone like an Olivia Miles, that would signal that they're going to switch up their offensive system.
Sure.
I think acquiring Taniyah Latson has to signal that same thing. Taniyah Latson has never averaged under 21 points a game at Florida State. Taniyah Latson averaged 25 points a game this year. This is not the time to bring in Taniyah Latson to just be another guard out there who takes 10 shots or less a game. This is the time to lean into the talent of a Tanaya Latson and let her be your best player, your best scorer. And I just think adding Pow Pow last year, that was great. That was a 3-point shooter. It was like the perfect like puzzle piece based on what they needed, and they went undefeated. This is much different than a Pow Pow. This is not a plug and play player. This is not a work into the system player. To answer your question, I look forward to seeing it because I still need to be shown with my eyes that Dawn is going to adopt a new kind of offensive system that encourages guards scoring the ball and shooting the ball, because now you've got one of the best scoring guards in the country. So one thing, and going back to what I said about Olivia, one thing I expect to see more is more ball screen action. South Carolina is not traditionally a ball screen heavy team.
Sure.
Tonight, Latson's the type of guard you want to have plenty of screens. Iverson cuts, stagger screens, and ball screens, and she will create on her own. So I think a lot of this is going to be interesting to see how Dawn is able to kind of like almost relinquish the system to her talent now.
Sure. I mean, listen, Tanaya Latson, as you mentioned, one of the best scorers in the country. She led the country in scoring this season. And I even posted a reel about that on my Instagram page, just talking about how good she was, how good she can be. I'm trying to play this clip here so that we can take a look at just how good she is as a scorer. Gotta love technology though. There we go. So when you're talking about things that have to change, right? Like this is a player in Tanaya Latson who has an elite first step.
Look, ball screen.
Ball screen. Not even
in for a reason. Look,
not even
ball
10
screen
seconds into the conversation.
Ball screen, come off, flare screen. Like
this is you're right. This is going to be something completely different for South Carolina, because as you mentioned, this isn't what we see when you turn on a game of South Carolina basketball. You're not seeing a lot of this. You're seeing a lot of dumping into the post. And Olivia Miles, in her clip last night from TNT, she said, she wants people to trust that she knows what she's doing by going to Mark Campbell. I do not believe, and I don't want to make this, I don't want to say this as like a diss to Raven Johnson, because it's not. Tanaya Latson does not seem like the type of basketball player who would sacrifice how good she can be and sacrifice the way that she plays basketball just so that she can have 1 year playing basketball with her high school bestie. That doesn't seem like Tanaya Latson doesn't strike me as the type of person that would do that. So what this means to me is, you're right. Not only does this signal that Dawn Staley has acknowledged and is willing to change the offensive identity, but this bringing in the #1 scorer from the country this season signals to me that they're going to change the offensive identity next season, because Tanaya Latson wouldn't have agreed to come play to South Carolina if she's going to be spending 30 some odd games every season or next season dumping the ball.
Nope. Dwayne Marcus, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. My mic just unplugged. That's all. Tanaya Latson doesn't seem like the type of player that's just going to come to South Carolina just so that she can dump the ball into Adele Tack or dump the ball into Chloe Kitts or Ashlyn Watkins when she's back or whatever, right? Like this. So I think we're going to see it. I'm really interested in seeing, and you brought this up, the thing I'm most interested in is seeing who's going to be in the starting backcourt, because Raven Johnson now going into her 5th year, really good player. And she obviously brings something to the table that would benefit South Carolina. But, and again, respectfully, a Raven Johnson, Tanaya Latson backcourt in the year of our Lord 2025 going into 2026 is not the best possible backcourt that you can put onto the floor. The backcourt for South Carolina, the starting backcourt for South Carolina next season, should be Malaysia Fulwiley and Tanaya Latson. And so I think the other layer to this is, it's not just will the offense change, it's will Malaysia Fulwiley be a starter next season? Yeah. Because you would have assumed before all this, you would have assumed with Raven going out the door because senior year, Malaysia's going to start. But now not only is Tanaya coming in, Raven's coming back. Yeah. So Malaysia Fulwiley, a lot of us will agree, as will you, she deserves to start. Will she start? I think now is the next question for South Carolina, is will she be the starter next alongside Tanaya Latson in the backcourt? I think she should be. I know that you think she should be. I know there's a lot of other people on Twitter that think she should be, so much so that they think that Malaysia should enter the transfer portal, which isn't going to happen because as you see there, she's excited to be playing with Tanaya again. That's my big question, is what the starting backcourt is going to be.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people, I mean, I even said, like, I feel like it's time to make Malaysia a starter. And, you know, it's not that important, but it's something interesting to watch for, just the rotation of things. Like, and that's part of what is going to be interesting to see how Dawn approaches this, because technically you could start, like, you know, it depends on matchups and stuff. Dawn likes to go bigger. So I think, you know, you lose Bree Hall. I think you need to get another lengthy, kind of rangy wing like that. That's like your legitimate 3, because there might be times where you could, even if it's not starting, there could be lineups with Raven, Malaysia, and Tanaya. Like, that's small, but like, again, maybe this is a new, maybe they try more small ball. Maybe they go with more smaller lineups, more dynamic lineups like that. And that is small, but it's possible that happens. I mean, I think it's possible that Raven and Tanaya are your starting 1 and 2, and Malaysia does keep coming off the bench. I think that's still possible, because Malaysia and Tanaya are both guards that can be point guards, but I know Dawn has so much trust and respect, you know, for Raven, and I just think that starting point guard role is going to be hers. You know, unless they really look to switch things up. I do think that, so there was the quote from Raven when they asked her about recruiting her friend, and she was open about, yeah, I'm going to hit her up. I'm going to try to get her here. What she said about Tanaya was that she knows what winning culture is about. What Malaysia said, part of it was one in the tweet that you put up, but what she also said that wasn't on there was that what Malaysia said about Tanaya is that she reminds her of her. She's like another her. So I think that's interesting, because Raven played with Tanaya in high school. They won together. So she knows that she has a winning culture and spirit about her, which means Tanaya's not just going to South Carolina to put up when you go to anyone who goes to South Carolina, there's like the saying, like, you know what you're signing up for. Yeah. Maddie McDaniel, Malaysia Full Wiley. Yeah, you know, underclassmen who people, even Zaya Cook when she started out, people who fans expect to be doing more and know that they're more dynamic. They start, you know, talking about them maybe transferring or going somewhere else. But then Maddie McDaniel's mom or Malaysia Full Wiley's mom or someone comes out and says, hey, we know what we signed up for. We are here to play for Dawn Staley and compete for national championships. And no matter what you're averaging or what you're doing or how great you look, that is what you're doing, is competing for national championships every year. So that's why Tanaya is going there. To me, it's all on Dawn to prove and kind of show to Tanaya, hey, we want you, not only we need you to be yourself. There's a reason why they are even looking to bring her in. That's probably the biggest story to me, is the fact that coming off of a blowout national championship loss, and this is where, you know, people were trying to compare the Olivia Miles to TCU thing to KD to the Warriors. The only thing that makes it like that is that that's the team that beat her in the tournament. Cool. Tanaya Latson to South Carolina is more like KD to the Warriors. They were just in the national championship, and they've been in the Final Four 5 straight years. This is, you know, it may not be a super team based on roster right now, but it's a super program. And they just added the top scorer in the country. Like, that's way closer to KD to the Warriors to me. But it only becomes that kind. They only have the potential to have another undefeated season, like Malaysia said could be their potential. That only happens if Tanaya is being encouraged to not just you adapt to us and what we do, but we want to adapt to you and the fact that you are a dynamic, outstanding scorer. And I really look forward to seeing if that identity kind of impacts and trickles down into South Carolina's offense. I do think this is big for Dawn going forward with recruiting and in the transfer portal in general. This is her first, like, Zaya was a blue chip guard, you know, but like this is the first one of this kind for Dawn to show like, okay, y'all been talking about Malaysia. Y'all been talking about my system. We can't score, I'm bringing in the top scoring guard in the country. Watch what I do with her. And I think that's going to impact, in a good way. It's going to benefit her recruiting going forward to show like, hey, I'm not just a system coach. I'm not just a big girl coach and post oriented and we only go through our bigs. We can do stuff with dynamic guards too. So I think that can be huge for Dawn going forward.
I think I'm just sitting here thinking about like Tania Latson coming in, and I feel like it reminds me a lot of what the conversation was a little bit differently, but I think conversations you and I had about what things are going to look like in Indiana once they got Caitlin Clark, right? Because it was it's completely different from what we were accustomed to seeing from them, right? And the conversation wasn't just about, can Caitlin Clark adjust to the WNBA and the way that the Fever play basketball, but it was also how willing are the Indiana Fever going to be to adjust their offensive philosophy to replicate what Caitlin Clark was doing in Iowa to make that transition for her a little bit more easier. And as the course of the season goes on, we get to the back end of the season after All-Star break. Aaliyah Boston at one point was leading the league in assisted threes, assists to threes, excuse me. Her and Kelsey Mitchell were the leading backcourt in scoring, I believe. They both hit the most three. Like we saw the pace had gone up, and we saw that over time the Fever had made that adjustment. I think we're looking at a similar thing here where Tania Latson clearly plays a certain way that has brought her success at Florida State. Now, there might be some concessions there because, as you mentioned, she knows what she signed up for. But in the same way that Tania Latson is going to have to adjust a little bit to the way that South Carolina wants to operate, considering how you like to talk about depth, considering how deep the guards are. Again, Tania, Raven, Malaysia, Tessa, Maddie, like that, a lot of guards. So when but then also South Carolina has to be willing to make some concessions to, we need to get her the ball. And sometimes we might just need to get out of the way and let her do what she does. Right. And so I'm very excited. Last thing I'll say is you mentioned that we might be out there looking to get, another wing player, what have you. I did see as I was scrolling on Twitter that Chloe Kitt's little sister who played in Florida, she is in the transfer portal. She's also designated as a do not contact. So I'm crossing my fingers. I've seen a little bit. I'm not too familiar, so I won't speculate.
Okay. I was about to say, can she play? I mean, it's nice to have your sister, but can she play?
I've seen a couple clips. I like what I've seen in a little bit of clips that I saw on Twitter when I did some digging. I'll do some more digging and give you a much more concrete analysis there. But if the clips I saw is any indication, I'd like to see Chloe Kitt's little sister come over to South Carolina to play with South Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I like the direction.
And if the reports are any indication, I think that's the least of our speculation. The rumors are that Dawn is not done in that portal, and I don't think that's referring to Chloe Kitt's sister. I think they're looking to make a couple more big splashes in the portal. So we'll see what that means. Last quick thing I'll say on the comment that Malaysia made that Tania reminds her of her, and one of the advantages is that Tania played with Raven, played with Malaysia. She's familiar. She's played with different girls there in AAU. So they know who Tania is. And obviously they're familiar with what she's been doing at Florida State, but they have history. So it's not like it's an outsider. These girls don't even know her. She's coming in as like just this big gun scorer coming in. We don't know her. She doesn't know us. There's history. So there's trust that built in there already. That's huge. This is huge for Malaysia for Wiley. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. Having another dynamic player like you, because that's what she said. She's like, she reminds me of me. She's a lot like me with the motor and how she gets after it. I think this is going to be huge for Malaysia for Wiley to have another player who is of her dynamic scoring caliber to kind of take the pressure off of Malaysia to be the only one of her kind on that team. So with Tania getting a little bit more of the green light that she deserves, I think that should translate over to Malaysia too, where it's like, hey, remember, I'm still the one who can put it behind my back and transition and lay anybody I want. So if we're opening up this system a little bit more, I think that's going to only benefit Malaysia for Wiley.
Malaysia for Wiley, so far in 2 years at South Carolina, has not played with anyone nearly the caliber of Tania Latson, who has the gravity that Tania Latson has. And that is going to be the key. There's going to be a lot more instances. You talk about needing to get a bucket.
Yeah.
Malaysia was kind of that person. You put her in the game, she can score 8 straight by herself. You look up and it's a whole different, it's a completely different ball game. Now, defensively, you can't double Malaysia. You can't give all your attention to Malaysia because you've got the number 1 scorer in the country from this past season who can still go get a bucket on her own. It's going to be great to see. And I've already said it on Twitter a couple of times. I said it to you. I joked on Monday that if we did get Latson, I was going to start looking into real estate in South Carolina so I can live there for the season. I don't have the finances for that. But I am making it my business to at some point go down there to watch this team with my own 2 eyes. I am telling you now, I will be in Columbia Life Arena watching the South Carolina Gamecocks play basketball. And hopefully, if things go well, I will be in the building when they cut down the nets next season.
Yeah. I just think that's such a big statement by Dawn and that program, because I think Dawn has heard people talk about their, like, maybe they're not that exciting, they're not that dynamic. We talked all year about their offense and how it can come off a little dry, a little stale. This is a big statement for Dawn and that program to bring in a player like this. It kind of just counters all the narratives that have been going on about their program and how they operate and what they do. And this is a huge move, man. It brings a new level of excitement with that program that I don't think, like, there's been excitement because they've been so successful, but just in terms of like Showtime, like you call Malaysia Showtime, like they're going to look a lot more like a Showtime team than just like a great basketball team. Like this is a new level of excitement at South Carolina. This is such a dope story.
I think the last time I smiled this hard was when the Aces won the second of the back-to-back. I'm really happy. I'm really
You should be. That's huge.
Oh my gosh, I'm ecstatic. All right. Thank you guys for watching. For all you guys who tapped in with us live, we certainly appreciate it. Please, if you are not already, subscribe to Basketball Society so you don't miss any future episodes of the Protect Our Queens podcast. We will be right back here 2 days from now on Friday to talk a little bit about the WNBA draft, which of course is next Monday. So please, if you're not already subscribed, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that. If there's a segment that you missed, please subscribe to the channel. You can catch that segment on the playback as well. Once you're finished doing that, head over to Instagram, head over to Twitter, follow us on Instagram at @ProtectOurQueens_ and on Twitter at @POQueens_ so you don't miss any other content that we post on those platforms as well. Like I said, we'll be right back here in a couple of days to talk about the WNBA draft. But until then, for my guy, Martin Soris of Basketball Society, this is Marcus of Protect Our Queens podcast signing off. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, you enjoy yourselves some women's basketball.